if you and I, for example, are on the phone and one of us trips on the stairs or over something, we immediately go, why am I tripping over shit I know is there?
Yeah.
Hello, and welcome to the Cup of Tea Critiques podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Chasen, and like always, I'll be joined today by the team that brings you cupofteacritiques.com. Here, we'll dive deep into the productions and topics we broach on our website, so you can decide for yourself if they're your cup of tea. Ready for a deep look with a deep root? This week's topic, movie quotes. Cup of Tea Critiques is a family affair, and I'm here with my brother Chris, my mother Reva, and my father Terry.
What are some of you guys' favorite quotable movies? Like, what movies do you find yourself quoting the most? Like, that you just think about the movie and you're like, oh, there's so many great lines in it.
You know, one Bad Boys, yeah, Boomerang. We between the two of us, that's the one that we go to a lot. Boomerang is just, and then we just go, that movie is just so stupid.
For me, it's Bad Boys, though, for real. Because, Chris, you and I, one of the reasons for me with Bad Boys is my brother's Chris, one of my closest friends is also named Chris, but I'll be on the phone with either one of you guys, and something applies from that movie that we'll talk about. I mean, if you and I, for example, are on the phone and one of us trips on the stairs or over something, we immediately go, why am I tripping over shit I know is there?
Yeah.
We will do that, like, on the phone with each other all the time. And that's just, I mean, that's one of the many lines. We'll do it from that one, and Bad Boys 2, same thing. Like, that collection of movies, I feel like is a set that I often draw from when I'm, especially on the phone with my brother.
Yeah, Jerry Maguire would be one for me.
You're Jerry effing Maguire. You're no loser.
Yeah.
No, it's an interesting topic because it does come up in all walks of life. I mean, we do it with each other all the time. Quote movies, TV shows, and at work, in the office. It's something that we do all the time. And the articles were pointing out the purpose why people recite movie quotes. And I guess I agree with some of the things they said in terms of forming a connection, or sometimes it's just the most appropriate, succinct way to summarize a given moment. You know, it happens to be appropriate and fits the moment, and everyone who has either seen this particular film, be it TV or movie or whatever, gets it instantly. And they also said that it's kind of a way of people connecting, bonding. They sort of mark a point in time in your life, and the people that were around at that point in time get it.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's generally it's definitely a way to bond with people. It's generally it's generally through humor. It seems like the most appropriate situation to drop a movie quote is either to lift spirits or to maintain high spirits, I guess. I think in a more serious in a mood where you're if you're not trying to do that, it just comes off as kind of, I don't know, cheesy or just bad timing. So I think it's pretty much always with the goal of making someone laugh or putting a smile on somebody's face. So I do think that's the most common way is to bond and also to find out if somebody knows what you're talking about. Because I think sometimes it's even more fun if you're talking to someone or even a group of people and everybody knows this quote except one person, and then you go, oh, what are you doing Saturday? We gotta watch this movie now.
Right.
It becomes an opportunity to bond even beyond that one moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think the biggest reason with movie quotes is I think as human beings, it's in our nature to want to connect. And one of those easiest ways is, pop culture ways, and movies are the best way of doing it because you not only connect what you're actually talking about in the moment, whatever your conversation may be, but you now find that you have similar interests just by simply sharing a quote. Oh my goodness, you can relate to that movie as well. And now not only do we have this specific conversation in common in that moment, but now we have this specific movie in common, and we can then dive into those and find out other like interests, especially in terms of movie taste. So I think that's the primary reason why I feel like people do that is to be connected, to feel connected to somebody else, or just to seek out that connection in the people around us.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you all. It certainly creates opportunities to bond or find common ground. It certainly does that. And certainly with regard to humor, it's an opportunity to laugh. It certainly, has all of those functions these movie quotes do. What I particularly like about them, though, is the nostalgia that it brings for me. And so I don't necessarily remember them as movie quotes, but I remember certain moments in movies. And I think, for example, about Beverly Hills Cop. Eddie Murphy's just hilarious. And one of the funniest things he did in Beverly Hills Cop, which was a very, very funny movie, was when he told the other detectives, Taggart and Rosewood, that, just so you guys know, the super cop thing.
It was working.
It was working. And y'all messed it all up. It was just so funny. I used to remember it right off the bat, but not verbatim. But it's the moment in which he said it, and it was just hilarious. And that is something that it comes to mind an awful lot, and it just, it takes me back to, the 80s when that movie came out. I just find the memory of a particular scene in a movie just nostalgic for me.
I've got one that you guys shared with me once before that I can't watch this movie now and not think of this story, but I remember, I believe you guys went to the movies with Donald to see Terminator, the first one.
Where is she?
Look, it may take a while. You want to wait? There's a bench over there.
I'll be back.
And when he goes, I'll be back. And I remember you talking about how he started cracking up and you had no clue because you had never seen the movie before. And then the scene continues on. And if I'm spoiling this for people, then that's shame on you. That movie came out in 1984. And he just barrels into the police station in his car. And I love that story personally because, like, while I find that scene hilarious in its own right, I love knowing my parents having a fun life outside of just being my parents and me entertaining them in my youth and ridiculousness. So it's kind of, every time I watch that movie and I hear that specific line, no matter who quotes it elsewhere, I could quote it in any kind of deal, but I instantly go back to the time you guys told me the story. And then I think about, like, my parents had some fun friends.
Yeah, that was Steve. Steve was the one who...
Steve, sorry.
Yeah, we actually rented the movie and we were watching it together. And it was hilarious because we had no clue. And he didn't give it away, but his laugh was like, okay, what's that about?
So it was that moment that we shared that I enjoyed so much. And that's what I mean about it's not necessarily the quote because I don't say that quote much. The I'll be back. I don't say that very much at all. But when it is said, I think about, the three of us hanging out and watching that movie together.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that's the function of quotes for me.
I agree with you, Mom. I was trying to come up with some quotes because I knew we were talking about this, and I mean I always go back to the one Brandon and I say all the time is Joe Pesci Casino. I've known the guy 35 years. I'm a whacker for you. Yes, and I mean it's clearly it's not like it's not appropriate to any moment. I haven't known anyone except for you all for 35 years, and I've never been in a discussion about killing anyone. So that's clearly not something that's appropriate to the moment in time. But it does make me nostalgic. I remember I was coming home from school because I was in high school at the time, and Brandon was watching it, and Brandon and I just started watching it together. And every time I hear that quote, it just takes me back to that. It takes me back to hanging out with my brother. And same with when I when I think of, to throw out another one, The Matrix, which we just saw actually, I think about, when they're about to go back in to rescue Morpheus, and the operator goes, "What do you guys need?" And Keanu Reeves goes, "Guns, lots of guns." And I think about when Dad and I watched that movie for the first time, and I mean, Mom, there's so many The Wire quotes. I mean, it's not a movie necessarily, but there's so many quotes from that show that made me think about us, watching The Wire when I'm home. And so I agree. I think nostalgia is probably the main purpose, because some of my favorite quotes have no relation to any moment in my life whatsoever.
What I found interesting in the readings is the professor from Arizona State University indicated in her interview that our recollection of movie quotes says something about our identity and our core values. And I maybe you guys can shed some light on this, but I'm not sure I get with that it necessarily says something about our core values.
I read the article you shared, Dad, and I actually think of movie quotes as much more of a representation of the movie stars that we connect with, the actors that I think, when I think about the lines I like to quote into the most quotable movies, or the most quotable, they do these listicles about the most quotable movies, and a lot of them are it's the actor. The actor kind of made the most out of that line, and I think Eddie Murphy's certainly one of them. Joe Pesci is certainly one of them for me. Arnold Schwarzenegger is certainly one of them. I think a lot of times they're, as much as the situation in the movie or the writing of the movie, it's that movie star. It's whatever they brought to that role or that moment that made it so memorable.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point, because as I talked about nostalgia earlier, in terms of what movie quotes do for me, I initially began by talking about Eddie Murphy. So apparently the actor is quite pivotal in that. I think also about, A Few Good Men with Jack Nicholson's delivery of You Can't Handle the Truth.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
His delivery of that line was just so key, and I think if he delivered it any other way, I'm not sure it would be as popular of a movie quote as it is today. But I think another is the nostalgia component.
Even if it's, a group of people that share that, a singular person that you're sharing that, or just you in particular, Yeah,
I think there's some nostalgia to it. I think more than anything, though, it always feels like sometimes these quotes come to me just simply in the moment. I will recall the movie as I'm starting to say something, just plain and simple. And I mean, for example, Jerry Maguire, Show Me the Money. I mean, anybody that's on payday is sitting here like, show me the money. Like, we're all feeling that way. And when it comes around that time where the annual raises might be going on, that absolutely has to go through their head. But I don't sit there and walk around all day going, show me the money. Now, I wish that the lotto would show me the money, but I'm just saying, like, on a daily basis, I'm not itching to try and use that quote. It was very spontaneous whenever those things come on. Another one I'll take for you is like Forrest Gump, Life is Like a Box of Chocolates. There's no nostalgia for me with that movie. It was a very good movie that was extremely long for a 12-year-old kid in 1994. I did not respect how good that movie was at the time. Like, now that I'm older and I still have thankfully only watched it twice, I still recall how bored I was during that movie. It was not a boring movie. Just it was much longer than my 12-year-old action hero type of mind could really, take on at the time. But I still use that quote. It hits me from time to time, and I'm like, it really applies to this. So there's no nostalgia for me with that at all. But there is some nostalgia when I can quote something that I definitely like gravitated towards and enjoyed more or whatever. Like, for example, there's nobody who's a Star Wars fan can get away with not saying, "May the Force be with you."
Mm-hmm.
And we probably do go on a daily basis wondering, can I get to use that today? But, just because we do, like, we all identify with how much we enjoyed those moments, the fights, all that kind of stuff. So sometimes, yes, but a lot of times I think it just happens.
Yeah. Another thing, sometimes it's a challenge. People throw them out there and it's like, yeah, who knows this? Who remembers it?
Yeah, it can make for a fun game.
Yeah.
If it's less, I'm sorry. I was gonna say if it's a little more obscure quote, then yeah, that's definitely what you do. Because Brandon, I know you've done that before, where you'll throw out a quote, and you'll be like, name that movie.
Yeah.
We'll just kind of look at each other.
I mean, there are times in college, if you get a good group of friends, that fortunately one of them will have an apartment, so nobody has to walk home or anything like that, all intoxicated. But I promise you, there has been, or so I'm told, some nights where college kids will just throw out movie quotes, and for the people that don't know it, they have to drink.
Yeah.
Any current college kids, don't listen. Don't do like those old kids of the past.
But, to be fair, though, this is multidimensional. And the more we talk, the more I'm realizing that maybe I'm hanging on to just the nostalgia bent too much as being so singular, in the way in which we, tend to hold on to certain movie quotes. I think another is philosophical. Another reason is philosophical. Maybe to that degree it does indeed in some way resonate with our values. Brandon, you mentioned, for example, Forrest Gump. Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it does, that quote right there it can indeed, especially if we're going through a difficult time or a challenging time. Mm-hmm. If we remember that quote, it can kind of let us step back and take a bird's eye view of our situation and become philosophical about it. Mm-hmm. And gain some perspective on it and help us to, kind of manage our way through it. And so maybe we do. I mean, and there are a number of people, for example, that will, at their desks have, their favorite quotes on their monitors, for example, or on their desks somewhere. And it's because it is a source of strength for them. Inspiration, strength. Yeah. And so I guess it serves multiple functions.
To that point, I think maybe the first example of that comes to my mind anyway is The Pursuit of Happiness, when he's talking to his son and he tells him, he kind of like scolds him and then he reconsiders it and tells him, don't ever let anybody tell you can't do something, or you don't, if you have a dream, you have to protect it. I'm butchering the quote in an episode about movie quotes, but that's essentially what he said is don't ever let anybody tell you can't do anything. And so, so I think that would probably be up, on a lot of people's, whether it's a vision board or their computer screen or whatever it is. So, but to echo your point.
Yeah.
Chris, it's funny you mentioned about butchering the line, and that actually happens often when it comes to quoting movies.
Mm-hmm.
I've used Jaws, for example. We brought this one up several episodes ago, but like a lot of people don't remember that he turns and just says, you're going to need a bigger boat. They always say it like, I think you're going to need a bigger boat. How many times people quote it that way, and it's like, that's actually incorrect, but to your point, maybe you may be misquoting it, but that's part of this as well, is that when we recall movie quotes, we recall them the way we thought we heard them or the way we would have interpreted in the moment. And oftentimes we end up butchering it by accident.
To your point about butchered movie quotes, I looked up a list. This is on WeScreenplay.com. They have a list of the top 20 misquoted movie lines. Some of them are pretty interesting. I mean, Forrest Gump is in here. And so what they have is the misquote, which is, how they're saying most people say it and what the actual quote is.
Yeah.
So the misquote from Forrest Gump is, Mama always said life is like a box of chocolates. What he actually said was, Mama always said life was like a box of chocolates.
My mom always said life was like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
That's a little minor.
That's not a,
But there's Apollo 13 is in here. So Houston, we have a problem. We've heard that a million times. the actual line was, Houston, we've had a problem. Casablanca is in here, where he says, play it again, Sam. What he actually said was, play it, Sam.
Play it, Sam. Yeah.
Play as time goes by. There's a movie called Play It Again, Sam, too, though. I think I want to say it's a Woody Allen movie. Yeah, it's a Woody Allen movie. Some of these quotes are they were referenced in other works of art that are contributing to the misquoting of them. The number one, though, was Luke, I am your father, which was actually, no, I am your father. He never says Luke.
I love that is one of the number one most misquoted lines in like all cinema history. And he says it so. The funny thing is, I think, Mom, you were talking about this earlier. We identify with these moments because of like we were on the edge of our seat as it was happening. So that's, we would think that we were so engaged, that we were on the edge of our seat, we were so attentive, and yet we weren't attentive enough to get that line correct.
Yeah, but is it important, as I think about that, though, is it important so much that you get the quote verbatim, or that you capture
the essence?
That you capture the quote's meaning for you? I think is less important than the fact that you remembered the essence of it because it meant something to you. The ASU, the Arizona State University professor, for example, said quotes encapsulate a sentiment, experience, or a moment in time. And so if that is what movie quotes do for us, it's necessary only that we capture the essence of the quote, not that we capture the quote verbatim.
In a way that people have misquoted things.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm 100% with the idea that it's about like how you connect it to that moment than it is about getting the quote correct. I also just find it humorous, especially a quote like that, but in general, I find it humorous when it turns out that we have been misquoting something, because it's like, oh crap, I've been saying that the wrong way. Nobody when they find out the correct way to say the line, I don't think anybody gives a crap that they've said it wrong. They cared more like, have I used it at the right times, which 99.9% of the time they probably have, and that's all they cared about. I know that's the case for me anyway. So
no one's gonna change how they say it, and they're probably not gonna remember the correct way to say it long after they find out. To be honest, because it's just that the memory of the correct way to say it isn't nearly as deep in your brain as how you've been saying it probably for years.
Exactly.
So yeah, I mean, it does feel like it's going against the definition of a quote to not say exactly what that person said, but I agree that in the context of movies where you're not going to get sued by a fictional character, then it's probably no harm done.
I'm sorry. Now I have this odd image of Darth Vader in court.
Yeah, right.
Quoted correctly.
Apology accepted.
Right?
I will say that some of the most memorable quotes, I mean, obviously there are a lot of memorable quotes. Chris, you just talked about 20, very popular quotes that we misquote. But there are a lot of memorable quotes out there. But in the process of reviewing, independent films, which are, films that are not very well known, they typically, a lot of them don't get theatrical release. And even for the ones that do, they don't become very popular. But these films, because they emphasize stories and relationships, some of the most compelling statements are made in these movies. Just one example is a film I recently reviewed called Twinless, and it is about a kid, a 20-something kid who loses his twin to a terrible accident, and he's having a difficult time with this. And one of the things he said was, as he was kind of pretending like he was talking with his brother, he said, "I don't know how to be without you." That really drove home for me what it's like to lose a twin. He says, I watched that film, I was trying to think, how is that different than losing? I'm sure it has to be different, but how can you articulate how it's different than just losing a sibling? And when he said that, I was thinking, okay, wow, they really drove it home for me. And so my point is simply that some of the things that are said in some movies that we're not familiar with are pretty compelling. Another film, I'll just say one more, The Baltimoreans, which is several months old, but reviewed that one as well. And there's a very funny scene where the lead character calls his best friend, a black guy, to help get his car out of a tow yard when the tow yard is actually closed. So he calls his friend to bring over bolt cutters so that he can get into the yard. And when his friend gets there and realizes what he wants, he says, "You want me, a black man, to break into a tow yard?" And then it hit him that, oh yeah, okay.
That's probably not a good idea.
Yeah, and then it just occurred to him all of a sudden what he was asking his friend to do. So he let his friend drive off, without giving too much away. But I thought it was just the funniest line that said a lot. And so while it's not necessarily, for me, it was a memorable quote. Mm-hmm. It was just a memorable quote. And not, it was just the way he said it, what he said, the way he said it, and the situation in which he said it and how the characters reacted. Yeah. So sometimes it isn't just what's being said, but it is the situation around it. And so anyway, I just wanted to bring that up. That some of the things that some of the films we don't know about have some really great quotes. And so I would encourage people to try to, every once in a while, check out some of the independent films. Shameless plug here. You can find reviews for some on the cupofteacritiques.com.
I think the quotable movie thing, it definitely leans comedy. Like it's a topic that definitely leans toward comedy. So I mean, Major League would be one for me that we talked about a lot. Mean Girls is definitely, it's filled with quotes. People quote it all the time.
You're like really pretty. Thank you. So you agree? What? You think you're really pretty? Oh, I don't know. Oh my God, I love your bracelet. Where did you get it? Oh, my mom made it for me. It's adorable. Oh, it's so fetch. What is fetch? Oh, it's like slang from England. So if you're from Africa, why are you white? Oh my God, Karen, you can't just ask people why they're white.
Office Space is definitely one. Yeah. And it gets back to, when we talked about quotes representing, real life or your actual philosophy, the friend asking him, or not the main character, but Michael Bolton, his friend saying, "Why don't you go by Mike instead of Michael?" He responds, "No way. Why should I change? He's the one who sucks." And I feel like people who share their name with a more popular person probably feel that way a lot. So it's probably a more common thought process than we would normally think. And then outside of comedies, I would say Casino, because it's a 3-hour movie that's just constant dialogue. So it just inevitably has quotes in it. And when you have so many great actors giving their, great performances, and Martin Scorsese and his kind of style of voiceover narrative and all that, it's just full of quotes that you would throw out. So I'm not going to throw any out because I won't stop. But
for the record, I was also much older when Chris came home to watch that movie with me, which is why I was able to make it through 3 hours of dialogue as opposed to being 12 years old and watching Forrest Gump. I was a full-blown adult by that time.
There is a good one there's one that was really popular at the time. I don't know if it's repeated much anymore, but the quote from When Harry Met Sally. Oh, yeah. I'll have what she's having. Yeah. The timing of that was perfect. Yeah. Yeah. The timing of that was perfect. But I don't think people say it much anymore. No, but it was really popular.
Yeah, it sure was.
They did put it in a commercial recently, reliving that moment or whatever, like 30 some odd years later. But, only the only people born before 2000 understood it. So,
yeah.
But it was still fun.
I think one of the articles hinted at this, that there can be a generational divide with
Yeah.
a lot of movie quotes, which is, completely expected, obviously, if but I mean, it came up recently, Stacey King, for, full disclosure, we're all Chicago Bulls fans, and their play-by-play announcer is Stacey King, and the other night after a big moment in a game where the Bulls won, he said, I'm coming, Elizabeth, it's the big one."
Yeah.
From Stanford and stuff.
And it was, I don't know if it was trending on social media necessarily, but it got some buzz, because a lot of young people had no idea what he was talking about, and there were older people popping onto the thread like, this generation doesn't know anything that didn't happen, 5 minutes before they were born, and they're all sharing clips of Sanford and Son, so people get some kind of perspective on it. But so it's funny. It's an example of how, if you're saying a quote around a person who's 20, 30 years younger than you, they might have no idea what you're talking about, no matter how popular it was.
It shows the intergenerational gap for sure, but it also shows the intra-generational connection too. I mean, there are plenty of people on that thread, to your point, that did recognize that quote. And so, he immediately established this connection with people in his generation, perhaps a little before, that were familiar with Red Fox and Sanford and Son. So it's interesting that it served those two functions, highlighting the divide or highlighting the gap and kind of accentuating the intergenerational connection. So that's pretty cool.
Not that I expect us to dive too far into this, but I also believe because we're in a digital age, I feel like people are watching even fewer commercials than in the past, because everything's so digital. So now if we're able to put it on the DVR or something and whatnot, we can fast forward commercials. We don't have to deal with it. And I mention that because there are times where I think these quotes hit us in movies that we hadn't seen, or that, we might in the future see, that we didn't necessarily connect to at the time. I remember growing up, and I remember being at grandma's place, and there would be commercials advertising the old movies. Dirty Harry, for example, is a character that would be on there. So, I still remember hearing, "Do you feel lucky, punk? Do ya?" Which I may have misquoted that line. I have never seen that movie a day in my life, but I know that quote.
Yeah.
Go ahead, make my day. Of course. I mean, and again, those movies probably came out when I was 4 minutes old, maybe 5. Never seen them before, but I could still quote them today, several decades later. And so, because we're not seeing advertising, though, the same way we did in the past, I think that has taken some opportunities away for us to, as a generation, connect some of those quotes from, group to group to group.
Yeah, you have seen The Mask, though, right?
Seen who?
The Mask.
Oh, yeah, I've seen The Mask. Well,
yeah.
okay.
Jim Carrey says.
Good point.
Jim Carrey says that line in The Mask, so it's funny. That's
probably
I don't know
when
if that
I
is,
learned it even better, but yeah.
Yeah, so I guess the way we bridge the generational gap is just another movie. Well, bites the line, I guess. It depends on how you want to frame it. Do they pay homage, or do they bite?
Yeah.
Chris, I'm glad you brought up The Mask, because it gave me another one. Because The Mask is Jim Carrey, and another one of our favorite movies that we like to quote a little bit of, at least, is Liar Liar. The pen is royal blue. or I'm kicking my ass. Do you mind?
Kicking my own ass. Yeah. Right? Do you mind?
You guys have a favorite quote? I know you have a movie. A couple of movies that you like to draw quotes from, but do you have a favorite quote?
They're all so situational for me, but they probably are on repeat in a lot of cases. Like for example, when I get asked, when Belle would ask me, especially when she was younger, where are we going? And I would always love to quote Buzz Lightyear, to infinity and beyond. And I loved it because while I didn't really watch Toy Story that much at all, even with her or whatever, it still made her laugh. And that's why it became, a favorite quote of my own, and one that I still to this day will use. So yeah. I will say, it's very situational, but the connective pieces, the person or people that I love that connect me to that quote.
There are a couple that I use. One I use is the Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Terminator, I'll be back. I do it all the time whenever I'm going to take the garbage out or whatever. It's, I'll be back. And then the other is one, I don't know why I like this one, but it's Pinky and the Brain.
What are we going to do tomorrow night, Brain?
Same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world.
Because somebody will always inevitably ask a question about what are we doing or whatever, and I always pull that out.
Last question. Can you tire of movie quotes? You know, what I mean by that is there are, you know, our go-to movie quotes. Like your dad says when he takes out the garbage, he goes, I'll be back. And secretly, I want him to change it up. I mean, it's not a secret anymore.
Yeah.
Sometimes he says,
that was definitely out the bag now.
Okay, don't worry, I won't tell him.
Sometimes I do want to change it, but...
Hey, Chris, don't let Dad know Mom's sick of this thing.
He's been using it for decades. And so my point is, you know, can we tire, and can the person saying them, can the person saying them get tired of them?
Again, it's all individual, so I don't think you can get tired of it, but I absolutely believe you can wear out other people with them. The quote that I just said now, for me, is extremely nostalgic with Belle, that, like, I enjoy saying it every single time and catching her off guard when she forgets from time to time, but I guarantee you that when she catches herself saying it and she knows I'm about to respond, she's literally like, shut up, quiet, no, don't need to hear it, just tell me where we're going to go.
I guess since Mom got hers off, what's everyone else's? What's the quote someone around you says that you're tired of hearing?
Well, okay, I already told mine.
It's only fair everybody else says.
I told mine. So Terry, tell yours on me. Do I have one?
I don't know. I'll have to remember that the next time.
I don't say them that often, so. But go ahead. I want to hear you all.
Two of them, actually, in each case. Number one, I see dead people. Oh, I was so sick of people saying that everywhere. Yeah. I lost my dang mind. And then the first rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club.
Yeah.
And it drove me nuts. I'm like, what are you talking about? I was more frustrated that I had not seen the movie and understood, like, what they were really referencing. So eventually I watched the movie and I was like, oh, sweet. Now I understand. But by the time I watched it, that quote was relatively dead in pop culture.
Okay. Speaking of dead people.
Those are good ones. I think mine would probably be May the Force be with you, honestly.
Yeah, that was worn out quite a bit. Yeah.
It's good. And it's people double down on it now. There's so much new Star Wars content now, and they gave it a holiday basically. So
May the Force
so it's
be
not
with
going
you?
Yeah, so it's not going anywhere.
Which is followed by Revenge of the Fifth.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Or the sixth, depending on whom you want to be around. So yeah. Thanks so much for listening to the Cup of Tea Critiques podcast. Honestly, we could go on and on like we do at our dinner table, but we appreciate you figuring out your cup of tea along with us. Make sure you rate and follow us wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Also, leave a comment telling us some of your favorite movie quotes. You can stay in the loop on all things COTC by subscribing on our website at cupofteacritiques.com. You can also find us on Facebook, check out our Instagram at Cup of Tea Critiques, and on Letterboxd at COT Critiques. For Reba, Terry, and Chris, I'm Brandon. We'll see you next week for another deep look for the deep root.